What's up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel, Haluhalo Music. This is your boy Herman Hildo, aka Haluhalo. Thank you for watching these videos and thank you for joining me. Okay, guys, if you're just tuning in, I am doing an installment, a video series installment of taking you from start to finish on the songs that I'm doing. Hence the title, Creating a Song from Start to Finish. So this is episode 3. And episode 2, we just went over some recording on how to record. And if you want to see how we did all that, there's many different ways that you can record music using your MIDI controller. You can record it in here, by clicking on the region that you want, creating new notes, show you how to do all that. But yeah, so that is it, episode 2. And then I went over and showed you how I recorded all this and how we went over the arrangements. If you don't remember how I did the arrangements, see this little box right here? Go and click that box, okay? And by chance this doesn't show up, the arrangements don't show up, not a problem. Just put your mouse over this area or right click and click on arrangements and it should be right there. There you go. Now I want to point something out. These are just basically copy and paste, right? And I told you I was gonna go on and work and create more sound, right? And this is what I came up with, right? So I created everything that's in color coded, right? Serves no other purpose but for a visual aid, right? And this is basically the main stuff that I re-recorded or recreated from something else. For instance, like this drum pattern is basically this drum pattern. I just removed a lot of the notes out like these. I just went ahead and I just started removing stuff, right? So let's look at that one. Now let's look at this drum pattern. You see, I just took off the hi-hat and the all the other sounds in here, right? Okay, so and then if you want to see why I did all this and you want to listen to why I did all this in more depth on how I created it, head over to my website, www.roottokingdom.com/tutorials, and you could see the bonus content that I share with you guys here. So subscribe here and you'll get those videos, and you'll also get these videos before anybody else. I do a scheduled release on YouTube, so every Monday you'll get a new video, um, excluding the bonus content. Okay, um, so let's go and listen to what we had from the last video. Let's go and listen to that. Okay. Okay. And then let's go and listen to what we created for you here. Okay. Just some more effects. This intro. And then really it's all just a copy and paste. That's all I really did. Copy and paste. Um, created new sound. Okay, I did do all of that, but let's go ahead and get into some mixing and mastering now. I'm sorry, just mixing. Mastering will be another episode, but in just this mixing, I want to show you a couple things that I think are important as far as mixing goes. So we're gonna do mixing on this drum region, and we're gonna do it through this drummer here. So if you are mixing using this drummer, don't worry about it. I'm gonna show you. Let's name this guy Kyle. Name him Kyle there. So you either did your drums with Kyle, which is the preset of Logic Pro 10, or you did it by creating your own beat patterns, right? Either way, each mixing that I'm telling you is gonna go hand in hand with either with the entire mixing process, generally speaking. Okay, so Kyle here, he made us a drum, and you can go ahead and record these drums and use it for your song and send it off to your record label or to Spotify if you do that yourself. These aren't copyright, so you can go ahead and use this, right? So last episode I showed you how to make your own sounds, right? How to, if you want to take off the toms, use the hi-hat instead, put in the snare, add in the claps, right? I showed you how to do all that. But that is not mixing. That is just creating and recording. So this channel right here that's highlighted is also this channel right here. See, Kyle and Kyle. So you can mix right here, and Logic Pro 10 already gave you a channel, already gave you an EQ and a compressor, which is really cool. So you can mess with that. Another way that you can do it, if you go to this board right here, this is called your mixer button. I just say mixing board. You pull up your mixer board, then you got this. And now all of this is what Logic Pro 10 did for me. They defaulted by putting all these plugins for me. The ones that are highlighted in blue are the ones that are on and operating. And these are just by default on what it comes. But when I mix, I like to highlight everything. Um, and I like to start on a fresh mixing board so it's just gone. And I do encourage you to do this. It's just going to help you become a better music producer because you're starting on a clean slate. But also, if you are not, then that is completely okay. You can actually use whatever Logic Pro 10 gave you by default, use it as a template. So use this as a template on the direction you want to go, right? So now you got this channel strip here, which is also right here. So you can mix on either one. But now let's get deep, right? On this channel strip, you're gonna mix the drums entirely as a whole, right? But as producers, in sound engineering, we want to be able to actually to process each instrument within the drum. For instance, the kick, the snare, right? The hi-hat. Well, how do we do that? I'm going to show you. See this where it says drum kit right here where my cursor is? I'm going to move it so you can see it. It says drum kit. Click on it. Drum kit designer. Multi-output. Click on multi-output. Now there's going to be a plus minus sign right here. I'm going to click on it. Watch what happens. It's going to create a drum channel or a kick channel, snare, hi-hat, toms, hi-hat, and then you click it again. Watch what happens. It's an auxiliary channel. You don't need that, right? Go ahead and remove that right now. So you can actually process. You can actually process each. You can actually process each the instrument within the drum this way. But we also want to be able to have control over this entire thing without having to go back and forth. So I'm going to show you how to do that really quick. Okay, go to Kyle, highlight Kyle, Command K, click on kick, click on the snare channel, the toms, and the hi-hat. Okay, highlight all of these regions here, go to track, go to create track stack, click it, and you get two options, folding stack and summing stack. Go ahead and click summing stack, and look what happens now. So Kyle now has these right here. So this is no longer controlling the entire drum kit as a whole, right? It's now this region, this little guy right here, sum 34. So let's name him drums. Enter. And how did I do that? I just went to the box right here and I clicked it. I double clicked it and then I wrote whatever I wanted, and then I do this for me. You can write whatever you want. If you want to write Kyle there, you can. You want to put your name there, you can. But Kyle now is a symbol. He is now the sounds of a symbol. So let's go ahead and remove these plugins there. I want you to see it. I want you to hear it and see it. So I'm going to solo this out. Just this channel. This big guy right here is usually where the cymbals are when it goes into the next part of the song, right? So let's listen to what the cymbals sound like. There you go. I can tell you that there's been so many times, even to this day, that I forget to change this to symbol, and I want to go in and actually mess with the drums entirely, and I'm over here messing with this entire. And I'm like, man, why is my cymbals popping through so much? It's just a mistake. And you're gonna notice that in your new career in music production, that we move fast because we want to get it done because time is money for us, right? So, but always try to take your time and do a good job, right? So let's go ahead and start off with the kick. Okay, we're going to start off with the kick. Let's put on the EQ. So move your cursor up to these boxes right here. This big rectangle box. You're going to see a little tiny box in the rectangle box. Click on it. Go to EQ. Now, all of these here is just the recents that I used. But if you go to EQ down here, you can get a choice of EQs. The channel EQ, linear phase, match EQ, single band. And I'll get into all those in another episode. But for this one, generally speaking, we're going to use the channel EQ. Hit the stereo. And then this is going to pop up. Okay, just to save us some time, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to dynamics and hit the compressor. I'm going to put a compressor on there. Now, you may or may not need a compressor on your kick drum, but we're gonna put it on there just so we could show you. Okay. Now, just really quick I want to give you some background on this EQ. This is our bread and butter right here. Now, we're not recreating sounds. We're just making it sound better. A little bit goes a long way. If you do too much on this thing, you could potentially ruin your whole mix, right? So each channel you want to be very delicate with each one, and you want to listen to each channel with itself, with the other instruments surrounding those instruments, and the instruments within the entire song, right? And I'm going to show you what I mean. So let's first listen to it, right? Let's listen to the kick drum. Okay, there's the kick drum. Now we want to listen to the kick drum with the entire kit, drum. My mic was in the way of this, and I couldn't I couldn't see the drums. I had to move my head to see that. Okay, so let's go over that again. So let's highlight the kick drum, and you want to listen to the kick by itself, right? Turn that off. You want to highlight your on the drums so you hear it the entire, and then you want to hear it with all the other sounds and instruments. So okay, and that's what I do there. I jump back and forth between all of those just so I can hear it. And what I also do, I also turn this on and off. I turn this on and off. Like I'll listen to it with it off, and I'll listen to what I did with it on, and just kind of compare, right? The reason why you want to listen to this on or you want to listen to this channel with everything else is because that is what your mix is going to sound like. So you want to be able to compare and contrast on what you are actually doing. So here's a little bit of background on this EQ. The human hearing is between 20 hertz, which is here, and 20,000 hertz, or otherwise known as 20K, right? This is your low end, this is your mid range, and this is your high range, your high end, right? Okay, so you're gonna hear a lot of producers say high pass, low cut, right? And that's this area right here, high pass and low cut. I'm gonna get a lot of heat for saying this, but I'm gonna say it. High pass and low cut is the same thing, really, essentially. So they'll go back and forth saying, oh, you gotta, if you're doing vocals, you gotta use a low cut filter. So what they mean is by this is basically your filter. These bands are your filters, right? These are bands right here. There's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight of them. You have eight of them here, eight bands to work with. So the kick drum usually hangs out between, on the low end, here. It's really up to you if you want to get put on this low band, this sub low band. Now, this red one here is your sub. This is area is more, it's more felt than it is heard. So you're not really going to hear this area. You will feel this. Like if you have a subwoofer in your car and you got this going on, right? You're gonna hear that. You're gonna feel the boom, 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 right? But this can potentially drown out the rest of your music, right? It could drown out the rest of everything else. So you have to be really careful about being really muddy, right? And muddy hangs around this area here, right? So high pass filter, low cut filter is the same thing. This is your mid range, right? Your mid range. This is your high shelf, right? This is your high shelf area. And they're also going to refer to this, and you guess is going to be the opposite of what this is called. This is going to be called low pass high cut filter. And if you listen to the words, right? So the the high pass low cut filter, the it's basically allowing the high ends, to pass through, right? So these guys to pass through over here, the higher frequencies, and this allows the lower frequencies to pass through, hence the name. So it tells you the name is what it does, right? Okay, so a little bit goes a long way. Let's go ahead and do some EQing. Let's do some EQ on the kick drum, right? Let's turn off the compressor. Okay, so we can hear it. I'm gonna turn the kick on. I'm only gonna have the kick soloed. Show you what this does. Now, if you don't see these lines, right, these frequencies coming through, click Analyzer. Then it'll show up. Okay? Now watch what this does. You can even move this all the way to the high cut. See, it makes it sound different. So a little bit goes a long way, guys. So like I said, if you want it to be punchy, then you want to hang around that 880 to 200 hertz. You can mess with this. You can this little dB right here is the decibels. If you click on it, you can actually type in what you want if you know what you want. So let's do two. Let's do two there. We'll do 2 decibels, right? And the hertz, let's just say we want 95, right? Remember I said it's punchy around 80 and 200. Okay, and this band right here, this little function right here, let me show you. I could show you better, and I could tell you. Look, watch what it does. Let me move yellow out the way. See how it's kind of getting wider, right? Getting broader. See that? That's what it does. Okay, this is called your Q. Your Q for quality, right? So it's you could potentially go into the other frequencies with this, like depending on how narrow or wider you want it, right? Um, so go ahead and mess with that, and just listen to it. Listen to your kick drum with the soloed out. Listen to it with just the drums all together, and listen to it with your entire mix. Now, you a little bit goes a long way, because remember, you still have all these other places you have to mix too, and everything is going to be fighting for its own space. Now, what happens is this, right? Let's just say you have a guitar. Your guitar is playing the note of G, and your piano is playing the note of G, right? And the best example I can give you is those two instruments, your guitar and piano, are hanging around the same frequencies. Now we want to be able we want to be able to bring those instruments out, right? So we're not technically creating a new sound. We're just polishing it up, making it sound better. When two instruments are taking up the same space, it's very hard for our ears to distinguish which one's which. So, and that's called masking, right? We want to unmask what is going on with the instruments, and that is what we do as as engineers, as audio engineers, music producers. We do that. So yeah, so go ahead and mess with that. Now let's go ahead and add on. In fact, let me just do a couple things here. Let me just move that there. And I already know what this is gonna sound like. So, but for you guys, make sure you actually turn it on. Right? Put on your kit, then listen to it with the drums entirety, then listen to it with the entire song. Okay, that sounds really cool. Right? Let me turn it on. Yeah, sounds cool already. And so oftentimes when I do mix and I get done mixing all of this, I do return and I do come back and start messing with everything else. So if there is something wrong with your drums and you cannot figure out what it is, your first go to should be these faders, right? Your first go-to should be these faders right here. These faders, right? You can up and down here. Let me just listen to it. Let's go to the kick drum. Let's put it along with the rest of the drum. There really is any signal on the kick drum. Now let's add more signal. Now it's starting to come through a little bit more, right? So just be careful you don't see any clipping here. If there is, don't worry about it at the moment. You can always add a limiter, and you can put a ceiling on that limiter, which will help you guys with your signals. You don't want to have anything in the red, especially on your stereo output. But let's go ahead and add the compressor for right now. Let's go to dynamics compressor. Now there's different types of compressor. By default, this one's gonna come up your platinum digital. You can mix with this. This was super hypersensitive, right? So I don't typically like to mix with this one, but I do like to master with with this compressor, and we're gonna get into those in another episode. But for the kick drum, I do like the vintage opto. I like the response time. Now I can get into what all of these things do and what the compressor does, but there's not enough time because otherwise it's gonna be this is a whole new video in itself. Um, but generally speaking, I'm gonna catch a lot of heat for saying this. But generally speaking, all the compressor does is make the sound go louder, louder, or hides the sound, right? It's just it's compressing the frequencies, right? That's really all it does. So don't overcomplicate this. Do not overcomplicate this right here. Um, but this is your ratio, your threshold, meaning where when the compressor starts, right? This is your gain makeup makes it go louder. So let's listen to what these things do, okay? So I got the kick here. We're gonna play it along with the rest of the drums because I want to show you what happens if you overuse the compressor. Then it's gonna start compressing the sound of the kick, and then other sounds are gonna pass through, and other frequencies will pass through, and you'll be able to hear it. Check it out. Okay. Hear that? Turn it on and off so you can sample it. don't be afraid to mess with your compressor. A little goes a long way too. Typically, you don't for the kick drum. Um, Depending on what genre you're doing, I don't like any of my instruments to go past -5. I like to keep it down here. This is already super loud, and you got all these auto gain buttons here. So go ahead and mess with that and see what all of these do. Sidechain compression. I'm gonna show. I'm gonna tell you in another video what all these do. But for now, go ahead and just practice with this area right here, and you're gonna want to do it with your EQ, right? So what I do is I have my EQ up here, and I put my compressor here, or I'll just move it. And, here you go. That way, so I could see everything, right? I could see everything here and kind of mess with it, mess with the fader too. So if I see it clipping right here in the output or the input gain, then I start messing with the fader here. You can even mess with these knobs, right? The gain, right? You can mess with that. Um, a little goes a long way. If you find yourself clipping and you want to do that because it really helps you, by all means, you can do that. However, you're going to have a hard time mastering this because if you go super high and you got so much signal coming in here, remember you still have to master this, right? Mastering means you're taking that sound and you're making that music ready for industry standards, right? And if your audio engineer, if your sound engineer does not have enough headroom to do any adjustments, he's gonna call you, be like, "Hey, man, I want you to go to all your faders and pull them down a bit." He's gonna tell you, "Hey, your drums is really coming through. I need you to pull down your drums or pull down your stereo output because that means he has no room." So you don't need to go super hard here in your mixing. Just make it sound good. It doesn't need to be loud at this moment. Don't worry about it being like, okay, I could barely hear it. There's ways that you can bring it up. So give yourself some room, right? Use these faders here. Use these faders right here. Before you continue before you start messing around with this channel EQ and compressor. Now I want to show you something else on this channel EQ, also on the compressor too. I'm going to show you something. Now, Logic Pro 10 is super cool because they even give you defaults, right? They even have presets for you. They have presets for everything. So let's say you want a punchy kick drum. Oh, here you go, punchy kick. Boom. That's what it's gonna do. They did the mid range a cut here. They really brought this down, and they brought up this. They brought up the high ends, right? But they kind of kept this the same. So don't be afraid to use this as a template. This actually doesn't sound very bad, right? It actually sounds decent, but depending on your genre, it may not fit what you need. And this goes on the same thing too for the factory. So you got drum room. If you want to sound like it's in a drum room, you want to bring in the top ends of the snare. Then you would do that compressor there. So don't be afraid to use those presets. Okay, guys. That's pretty much it for the mixing and mastering. Now I could sit here and keep going about mixing, but we're gonna be here a little bit longer, and I don't want to do that to you guys. My best advice to you about mixing is to get in there and do it. Like, you can go to all the school that you want to. You can talk to all the producers that you want to, and they're going to tell you, oh, how to do this. This is what I do. This is what I do. This is what they do, right? But you need to do you and get in here and start doing it because everyone's going to work differently. Now, I am not showing you the way, I'm showing you a way to do mixing. So make sure you mix every single channel that you are using, right? Start off. I like to start off with the drums. If your thing is to start off with the melody, you can start off with the melody. There's no handbook, there's no rules for it. um but depending on the genre, like rock is based upon the drums, right? EDM is based upon the drums, right? The beat, right? So maybe you want to start off with that, you know. So depending on what genre you're doing or whatever workflow that you have, you know, don't be afraid to get in here and do it. But that is the only way you're going to get better, is you get in here and you do it. If you have any questions and you need a little bit more help, maybe I said something in this tutorial that didn't really make sense to you, please feel free, and I'll leave all my information in the description. Please feel free to text me at 209-845-7761, or give me an email at music@rootedkingdom.com or haluhalomusic@gmail.com. Either one's fine. But I'll leave all the information in the show notes, or in the show notes in the description. But if you have any questions, or you need help, you need me to elaborate on something at the moment because maybe you got this work that needs to be done, please let me know and I will help you and we will get through it together. I promise you. Okay, guys, I really enjoy doing these videos for you guys. If you find it helpful, please share it with your friends or to an upcoming producer. If you need want to give me advice, please give me advice, and because I want to make these as easy for you guys as possible. So, any constructive criticism is always welcome. All right, guys, until next time. Paalam.